All right, so remember that you set that camera up earlier on. You're still in camera mode. You can see it up there. So make sure you switch to the top view, okay? Once you're back in there. And there's where my part of the texture that I'm using is. And so, say this is a building. Okay, no problem. Remember, I put this at -5. So anything I put down, I lay down in the scene now from this top view, by default will be higher up. And so let's say I want to, I'm just going to do a very simple texture here. But let's say I wanted to give it sort of like a starship uh, hull type of texture, right? I stay in my top view and I'm just going to make some rectangles. And I'm going to assume that you already know how to do this sort of thing. And I'll just make them. And they're showing up where I want them on the X and Y plane, but they're all defaulting to the uh, to 0. These splines are flat, of course, and so they're defaulting to the 0 level on the Z axis, which is precisely what I want. Because once I'm adding other layers, I'm going to want certain things over top of other things. So, for example, like a hull texture like this, I'm going to want beneath details like lifeboats or windows if it's a ship is what I'm making. So I'm going to take these and I'm going to turn them into polygons, right? And I'll just I'll give them a color. So let's say I want them to be a slight sort of bluish gray, and I'll just apply that to them, and there they go. And let's say I want to add some additional detail. So I'll just make some more rectangles. You're like, wow, I'm sitting here watching a tutorial about somebody making rectangles. Time to get a job. Hey? um, Alright, so I'm adding a few details. Look at how clever I am. This is a great way to do hull paneling, by the way. It's just these boxes like this. This is a little sloppy, but... Alright, so I'll turn that into a polygon. And I'll give that a color too. We'll give that, like, say, a slight tinge of greenish gray. I'll apply that. And I'm going to change the color of my wall here. Or, whatever the heck the thing is now. I don't even know anymore. There we go. So it's all nicely blended, and I'll just make my colors slightly more, there we go. Whatever. So I've got that, and let's say, good. Now, because both of the green and blue boxes are at the 0 level, I'm just going to make sure I select, whichever one I want on top. So I want the green boxes on top. So I'll put them at like, 0.25 on the z-axis. That way when I render, Darwin, shush! That way they'll always show up on top. And if I switch to a perspective mode, you can see that in fact they are slightly higher. Okay, and now I'll just say add some windows. So I'll make a little rectangle, some rectangles here. And I like to put windows at like +5 on the z-axis or something like that so that I never forget that they're up there. And I'm going to do something, add some corner radius to those windows a little bit just so that they're rounded off. I'll turn that into a polygon. I'll just make it black. Now, it's advisable to use the multi-sub objects on here, but however you want to do that is up to you if you know how to do that. So I'll just do some windows. Number of copies, 10. There we go. And maybe, maybe I'd like to add a big gray panel here. So I'll move that up to like 1 on the z-axis. So that, whoops, sorry about that. Hit a button on my mouse. All right, and so if I go to my perspective mode, you can see there are these different levels of depth. I switch to my I'll say, okay, I'm done. I'll switch to my camera mode, and notice you can't see it. Well, that's because of the field of view. When I render it, there's my texture. Close it off. Open up my tutorial, and there it is, applied because I mapped it earlier.